Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith. In The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, private investigator Cormoran Strike is asked to investigate the death of a famous supermodel, sending him into the world of the ultra-wealthy and the seduction of celebrity culture. I was super excited to get into the Cormoran Strike series. It's been a long time coming, and I really enjoyed this first book. That being said, I have actually, prior to reading these books, I have seen all of the current episodes of the TV series, which is called Strike. But even though I have seen the episodes for these books, for the life of me, I just couldn't remember all the little fine details, like who was part of what, who was involved in what, who was the killer. So there was a lot of little details I could not quite remember, which I guess was a good thing, because then I was able to kind of get into this book and reading it almost as if it was the first time, in a sense, that because I'm not being spoiled now by the show entirely. So yeah, even though I have seen the show already, like I said, there's just a lot of details I could not quite remember because it's been several years since that first season of Strike came out. So I did. I love the show. I really enjoyed this first book. I'm really glad to be starting this journey with Strike. As for our main character, Cormoran Strike, I really just find him an incredibly fascinating protagonist of this tale as our main detective hero and whatnot. He is definitely not a perfect man at all. He is incredibly flawed. He has a lot of issues, a lot of deep issues, psychological issues or something. I don't know. Um, he's a rather curmudgeonly man. For starters, he can be a little grumpy and hateful sometimes. He's not really like a people person, he doesn't have like that sort of personality, that he can just kind of instantly go up to people and be really cheery and like cheerful and warm to people, because he's described as being really tall and kind of a big man in some ways, and he automatically gives off this presence of being a really intimidating figure because of kind of his size in general. It provides some interesting things there, that even though he is a really great detective, he's not really approachable sometimes. I also just really like his backstory as well. He has such an incredibly in-depth backstory, which I kind of wasn't entirely expecting for a character like this, because a lot of times when you read detective novels like this, they're very straightforward. They're entirely all about the plot for the most part, and sometimes you really don't learn a lot about your lead detective or police officer or whoever in this situation that it would be. He actually has a really complex backstory because he's actually the son of a rock star, like an aging rock star. So there's a lot of that with his personality, that a lot of people actually kind of know who he is, because a lot of people do recognize him as the son of this really popular rock star and whatnot. And a lot of people are just really confused about, like, well, what are you doing being a private detective? You could be living in all high and mighty with money and women and stuff like that, and that's not the life that he wants. And yet, for starters, he doesn't even really have a good relationship with his father. Another big detail about his character is that he was actually like from my understanding, he was like a military detective in Afghanistan, and it's here in Afghanistan quite a number of years ago that the group that he was with, they encountered a situation. There was a bomb explosion, and he lost his leg in the process. So the fact that our main character he's missing a leg and he has a prosthetic and whatnot, that's another big huge part of his character. He actually has a lot of issues because sometimes he'll stumble around a little bit. He has a lot of pain from the injury still. So that provides some interesting situations in the narrative as well, because sometimes he'll not be feeling his ultimate best and he has to kind of chase after somebody and it's not working. But even though he has a lot of problems and issues, vulnerabilities, weaknesses, things that are kind of hindering him, at the same time, he's still an incredibly great private detective. He's really patient. I think he's very patient. He has a lot of strong perseverance, and even though he isn't the most charming of people, and he doesn't come across as a people person, the thing is, I think he still kind of knows just how to talk to people, and kind of that patience with people, to really get them to open up rather than him forcibly making people talk to him. He kind of has the patience to let the person just talk to him and let their own narrative spill out of them kind of by accident in some ways. He's a very quiet character, which I liked. And our other main character in this first book is a lady named Robin Ellicott. She actually comes to Strike as a temp worker. Um, uh, and she's supposed to really only be there very briefly, but she really falls in love with this job. You get the idea that Robin, she's a young woman, she's already kind of gone through quite a number of jobs, but nothing has ever really quite piqued her interest. It's like there's something she's looking for, something personal for her she's looking for that will feel like there's purpose and meaning. And she really actually quite likes, pretty much being Strike's secretary. She feels like she's being put to use and she feels like she has purpose. And she really helps him with certain situations, kind of getting the job done in places that perhaps he can't get it done. She has the female touch for certain areas. Once again, Strike, he's not a people person. He's a large, bulky man. He kind of will just walk into a situation, might make something a little worse sometimes. And Robin, as a woman who's very sweet and charming, she can kind of go into a situation and really put on a different type of persona and really get a suspect to start opening up and talking, whereas Strike might not have been able to get through to that particular person. So I really liked Robin as a character. I'm really curious to see where her relationship with Strike goes. In this first book, they definitely have a very platonic relationship, very, very incredibly platonic, full of respect and trust and whatnot. And I liked how that developed over the course of this book. As for the main murder mystery of this book, going a little bit into more detail than the brief synopsis that I gave you at the top of this video, this book is all about the death of a very famous supermodel. In this book, she's a fictional supermodel, but she's like really popular and alluring to everybody. So at the start of this book, this supermodel has fallen off of a balcony at her home, and many people rule it a suicide. The police think it's a suicide and everything, but her stepbrother does not think it's a suicide. He thinks, in fact, it was murder. So that's where Strike and Robin come into play. The brother wants to reopen the case and reinvestigate it because he thinks it was murder. So yeah, together, Strike and Robin, they are looking into things, reinvestigating and talking to people that perhaps the police never really got around to, and they're realizing there's certain clues that were kind of neglected or missed entirely. So what this book does, it goes into the world of the ultra wealthy. Not only the supermodel who died, not only her life, but the life of the family that adopted her, because she's adopted, kind of the entitlement that sometimes the upper classes feel that they have and the things that they can get away with, So it's dealing a lot with the ultra wealthy, and it's also dealing quite heavily with just the seduction and allure of celebrity culture and whatnot, the obsession and appeal that comes with that. Because a lot of times we sit and look at celebrities and we think, oh man, they have such a wonderful, glamorous life. But then you start thinking about it. They're constantly photographed. They're constantly interviewed. Just things can be misconstrued the wrong way, So it's like your privacy is just totally taken away from you. So yeah, this book is dealing a lot with that, celebrity culture, that everything looks really great on the surface, but once you dig in deeper, there's a lot of negativity in there as well, and that celebrities are people too. They have their own vulnerabilities and weaknesses that aren't entirely seen, that a lot of people just ignore. So I loved kind of that combo that was being explored, the wealthy and celebrity culture. It's a nice little blend and mix there that works really wonderfully and makes it for such an incredibly compelling, thrilling story. I loved it. And the narrative, what I kind of found as I was reading this book, the narrative, it's not the most wild and crazy sort of narrative. It's actually fairly slow, sort of, and there's not a hell of a lot of action to it. A lot of times you'll spend a chapter Strike and Robin are maybe just talking to somebody for an entire freaking chapter. You know, it's all just strictly dialogue, no like moving action. The action is all in the dialogue, which I quite liked. So it is this series. If you're expecting like wild and crazy action sequences and Strike running around and using a gun and shooting people and stuff like that, remember he's missing a leg for starters. He can't run, and yeah, it's not about the action. You know, it's not all about the action. It's definitely all about the dialogue, moving the plot forward, which I quite liked. So, overall, an excellent start to the Strike series. I am just super excited to finally get into this and make my way through all of the books. And yeah, I'm definitely planning on rewatching the series as I go. I'm really kind of curious now that I've read the books to kind of do like a compare and contrast, you know, book to screen. So that should be fun as well. So yeah, if you've not given the Cormoran Strike books a chance, if you know the detective genre is your sort of thing, definitely pick it up. I think they're a great time, and I think the mysteries, the murders in them are really compelling and interesting and kind of a little different in places. So yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.